Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Justin. I'm 37 years old, and I've learned that sometimes betrayal doesn't show up in obvious ways. It doesn't always come from suspicious messages, late-night calls, or clues you have to dig for. Sometimes it comes from something as simple and innocent as a doctor asking you a routine question during a normal checkup. That was how I found out the truth. How I learned that my wife had caught several STDs after sleeping with 3 strangers at a wedding. She kept the diagnosis hidden from me for months, pretending everything was fine while our marriage was already falling apart. Hearing that news didn't just break my trust. It made me realize that whatever was left of our relationship wasn't worth saving anymore. The damage was too deep, and the honesty we needed to rebuild anything was gone. I had been married to Zara for 5 years when everything changed. I realized that the emotional distance and coldness in our marriage had been hiding something much darker than the fertility issues and communication problems I thought we were dealing with. We met when I was 30. I worked as a civil engineer for the county, steady government job, good benefits, nothing fancy but reliable. Zara was an office manager at a dental clinic, handling scheduling and paperwork, regular hours, and predictable days. We met through a dating app. When we matched, we started messaging and clicked almost right away. Our first date was supposed to be a quick coffee, but it turned into dinner, and then into a long walk through downtown Sacramento, where we talked for hours. Everything felt divinely ordained, like I'd found the right person at the right time. We became serious within weeks. Exclusive almost immediately. Before long, we were spending nearly every day together. 2.5 years after that first coffee, we got married. It was a beautiful ceremony at a vineyard in wine country, with about 100 guests. Then we settled into married life in a quiet suburban neighborhood. For a while, it truly felt like we were building a life. The first couple of years of our marriage were genuinely good. We both had steady jobs and a comfortable routine. Zara and I fit together easily. Our personalities matched well. We were both calm, easygoing people who preferred routine over chaos. We shared similar beliefs about money, lifestyle, and long-term goals. We both wanted children eventually, and at that time, it felt like we were perfectly aligned about our future. Around the 3rd year of our marriage, we finally decided it was time to start trying for a baby. We had always imagined a family of our own, and by then, we felt financially ready and emotionally prepared. We assumed it would happen naturally and reasonably quickly, but it didn't. Months went by with no success. Then a full year. Then more than a year. Slowly, concern turned into worry. We started wondering if something might be wrong. We went through fertility testing, blood work, scans, all the usual checks. The results weren't devastating, but they weren't encouraging either. There were a few medical factors on both sides that could make conception harder. The doctor advised us to keep trying naturally for a few more months before exploring treatments. That's when the tension between us truly began. Each month became the same painful pattern. A burst of hope followed by disappointment when Zara's period arrived. Sex became scheduled and emotionally heavy. The joy and spontaneity we once had faded under the pressure. The constant sense of failure began to wear us down. Zara took it especially hard. Every month, when she realized she wasn't pregnant, she would retreat into herself. She became quiet, sad, and sometimes even angry, but mostly at herself. She couldn't stop comparing our situation to friends and relatives who were announcing pregnancies left and right. I often found her late at night scrolling through online forums about fertility problems, looking for answers or reassurance. I tried to be supportive, but I often didn't know what to say. My instinct was to stay positive and focus on solutions. But Zara didn't always want solutions. She wanted understanding, comfort, someone to sit with her in the sadness. Sometimes my attempts to stay strong came across as cold or dismissive, even though that wasn't my intention. Our communication started breaking down. We had the same arguments over and over. Should we try fertility treatments? Should we wait? Who was right? Who was wrong? We couldn't find common ground. We were frustrated with the situation, and slowly frustrated with each other. By the 4th year of our marriage, the emotional warmth between us had faded. On the surface, we were still a functioning couple. We paid bills, cleaned the house, went to work, attended birthdays and dinners with friends. But beneath all that, our connection was weakening. We weren't talking openly anymore. We weren't laughing, touching, or sharing the way we used to. Zara seemed more distant every day. She spent much time on her phone. Even when she sat right next to me, she felt far away. She never fully engaged in conversations unless they were practical or necessary. I reacted by turning to work. I took on extra projects, stayed later at the office, and convinced myself I was doing it to provide for our future, even though, deep down, I knew I was avoiding the growing emptiness at home. We became two people living side by side, but not really together, almost like roommates who happened to share a last name. We moved through the routines of marriage, but the emotional and physical connection that once held us together felt thin and distant. Our sex life worsened too. What was already strained because of fertility pressure became almost non-existent. When we did have sex, maybe once or twice a month, it felt like a chore, something we did because we were supposed to, not because we genuinely wanted each other. There was no passion, no closeness, just obligation. Despite all of this, I still loved Zara, or at least I loved the version of her I married, and the future I believed we were supposed to have. I knew our foundation was damaged, but I didn't think it was beyond repair. I honestly believed that if we could get through the fertility struggles, we could reconnect emotionally and rebuild what we'd lost. And through it all, I trusted her completely. Even with the distance, I never once suspected infidelity. I believed our problems were the typical, painful challenges many couples face, not signs of betrayal. In late spring of our 5th year together, Zara was invited to her friend's destination wedding in Arizona. Several of Zara's friends were going. I couldn't go because of work. I had a major project deadline that absolutely couldn't be moved. Zara understood and decided to attend the wedding alone. I actually encouraged her to go. I thought the break might help her mentally, give her space away from the constant pressure of fertility treatments and the heavy atmosphere at home. I hoped she would return feeling lighter, maybe even ready for both of us to start reconnecting. I helped her pack her suitcase and made sure she had everything she needed. I drove her to the airport myself, kissed her goodbye, and told her to enjoy the trip. There was no suspicion on my part, no fear, no doubts. I was simply a supportive husband telling his wife to have a good time with her friends. Zara was gone from Thursday to Sunday. We texted a few times, quick updates about the wedding events, a few photos she sent to the venue, and the bride. Everything felt normal between us. When she came home Sunday evening, I picked her up from the airport. She looked tired, but that seemed normal after a busy weekend and traveling. But over the next few days, she didn't get better. Instead, she looked worse. She said she felt run down, had a low fever, and was exhausted. I grew concerned. I asked if she wanted to see a doctor. She brushed it off, saying it was just stress and that she needed rest. But her symptoms didn't go away. After several days, she finally agreed to visit our family doctor, who had known us for years. She scheduled the appointment for a Wednesday morning while I was at work. I didn't think anything serious was going on. I expected she'd be told to rest and given some basic medication. When Zara came home from the appointment, she told me the doctor said it was just flu-like symptoms. She said she'd been given some medicine and would be fine soon. I believed her completely. I had no reason not to. She had seen the doctor. She had a diagnosis. It all seemed ordinary. What I didn't know was that the tests had shown something else entirely. Zara had tested positive for chlamydia and gonorrhea. She had contracted multiple sexually transmitted infections. She'd been shocked and embarrassed by the diagnosis. The doctor had prescribed antibiotics and told her that I should get tested too, since we were married and supposedly sexually active. Zara agreed in the office, but she never told me any of this. She quietly filled the prescriptions, hid the antibiotics in her purse, and took them in secret over the next few weeks, pretending she was recovering from the flu. As the weeks passed, the antibiotics did their job. Zara slowly regained her strength. The fever and exhaustion disappeared. On the surface, life returned to normal. But emotionally, nothing truly changed between us. We were still distant, still disconnected, and still weighed down by the stress of trying to start a family. Months passed. Summer turned to fall. Our marriage drifted into a quiet, dull routine. We weren't happy, but we weren't fighting either. We were existing beside each other, not with each other. In early November, about 5 months after Zara's trip for the wedding, I had my yearly physical exam with our family doctor. It was the same routine checkup I went for every year. The appointment began normally. The doctor asked the standard questions about my health, stress levels, sleep, and lifestyle. She checked my blood pressure, listened to my heart, and made notes on her tablet. We talked about any changes since my last visit, but there really weren't any. While reviewing my records and trying to make small talk, she asked casually, "So, how's Zara doing? Did she finish her treatment successfully?" I stared at the doctor without understanding. Treatment for what? The doctor's smile faded as she paused, choosing her following words carefully. "Maybe you should talk to Zara directly," she said gently. But I pushed. I told her I needed to know what she meant. Zara had never mentioned needing treatment for anything. She'd only said she had flu-like symptoms after the trip, nothing serious. The doctor looked uncomfortable. She was torn between patient confidentiality and my own medical safety. After a long moment, she finally sighed and explained. Zara had tested positive for chlamydia and gonorrhea after returning from her trip. She had received antibiotics and had been told, very clearly, to inform you, her husband, so you could get tested as well. Since you two were married, the doctor said. For a moment, her words didn't sink in. I just stared at her, confused. Chlamydia, gonorrhea, months ago, treated. And somehow, I was supposed to be tested too. Slowly, the meaning hit me. STDs require sexual contact. Sexual contact with someone who wasn't me, because I knew I was negative. That meant Zara had cheated. It must have happened during the wedding weekend. She had come home with those infections. She had put my health at risk. And she had hidden all of it. The doctor saw the shock on my face. She looked genuinely sorry for revealing something so heavy by accident. She repeated that I needed to be tested medically immediately. She said that since Zara had been treated 5 months earlier, and since our sexual contact had decreased, my risk was lower, but still real. I needed to know my status. I walked out of her office in a daze, trying to come to terms with the fact that Zara had cheated. She had gotten multiple STDs and had kept everything secret. She had lied about her doctor's visit, and she had lived with me day after day, pretending nothing had happened. That evening, I drove home feeling numb. I parked in the driveway and stayed there for about 20 minutes, trying to prepare myself for the conversation I was about to start. When I finally went inside, Zara was in the living room. She greeted me the same way she always did, completely unaware. I couldn't pretend everything was normal, but I also couldn't explode or confront her immediately. I needed to keep myself under control. We ate dinner quietly. Zara could tell something was off, but she didn't push. She probably assumed I was having one of my silent days, which had become more common lately. After dinner, while we were clearing the dishes, I asked in a calm voice, "Why didn't you tell me you had an STD?" She froze, a plate in her hand. Her entire body went still. Then she slowly turned toward me with a confused expression. "What are you talking about?" I explained that I'd had my physical earlier, and our doctor had mentioned her treatment. I now know about the chlamydia and gonorrhea diagnosis from 5 months ago. Zara's face changed quickly. She tried to deny it. She said the doctor must have made a mistake. She insisted I misunderstood. But I stayed firm. I told her the doctor had been obvious. There was no misunderstanding. Zara had been diagnosed, treated, and told to say to me. Her denials began to crumble as she started panicking. Eventually, unable to keep the lie going, she broke down and cried. She admitted it happened during her friend's wedding weekend, claimed she got drunk at the reception and ended up in a hotel room, that she barely remembered anything, but she admitted it was a horrible mistake. I listened, feeling sick, and asked questions I never wanted to ask. I needed the truth, even if it destroyed me. Piece by piece, it came out. It wasn't one man. It was three. 3 different men, on one night. Friends of the groom. People she barely knew. Encounters she claimed not to remember because of alcohol. The betrayal was so massive I couldn't even understand it all at once. This wasn't one mistake. This was multiple choice. And then 5 months of lying. My voice trembled as I asked, 3? You slept with 3 people? Brought home diseases? And hid it from me for 5 months. She kept crying, trying to justify it. She said she was drunk, scared, and ashamed. She said she panicked when she got the diagnosis. She said she hoped it would all disappear if she handled it quietly. I couldn't listen anymore. I couldn't breathe in the same room. I walked out. No jilling. No throwing things. I just left. I went to the guest bedroom and closed the door. That whole night, I lay awake. It wasn't only the cheating that was hurting me. It was the months of lies that followed. Every day, she'd had a chance to tell the truth. Every day, she chose not to. By the next morning, I had made my decision. The marriage was over. It wasn't only because Zara had cheated. It was because her actions showed me who she truly was. Anyone who could lie so deeply, for so long, wasn't someone I could trust or build a future with. I knew I couldn't stay married to her. I called my workplace and requested a personal day. Then I contacted an attorney and scheduled an emergency consultation for that afternoon. I also called my doctor and arranged for STD testing later in the week. I needed to know my health status as soon as possible. When I finally stepped out of the guest room that morning, Zara rushed toward me. She tried to talk, to apologize, to explain herself. I kept my voice calm and told her I had already contacted an attorney and that I would be filing for divorce. I told her there was nothing left to discuss. Her reaction came in waves. She told me I was overreacting. She insisted it had been one stupid mistake while she was drunk. She begged for reconsideration. She said throwing away 5 years was crazy and unfair. But my mind was made up. There was no fixing this. The trust between us wasn't cracked. It was shattered beyond repair. The STD test results came a few days later. Thankfully, everything came back negative. Because we hadn't been intimate much in recent months, and because of timing, I avoided infection. Physically, I was fine, but emotionally, I wasn't. The emotional damage felt like an infection of its own, something a clean test result couldn't heal. About 3 weeks after discovering everything, I filed for divorce. I had my attorney prepare the paperwork. Zara was served at home while I was at work. She called me immediately afterward, angry and upset. She accused me of being cruel and heartless. She said I was destroying our marriage over one mistake. She demanded that I give her a chance to make things right. I didn't argue and I didn't explain. I simply told her that from then on, all communication would go through the attorneys. I had nothing more to say to her directly. News of the divorce spread quickly. In our social circle, nothing stays private for long. Zara tried to control the story. She told some people we had grown apart that I was being unreasonable, and to others, she claimed that the divorce was a mutual decision, or even mainly my fault. But when people asked me directly, I didn't hide the truth. I told them she had cheated at a wedding, contracted STDs, and kept it a secret for months. I said to them that these facts made it impossible to continue the marriage. People reacted in different ways. Some were shocked and supportive. Others felt I was being too harsh, saying that everyone makes mistakes and that 5 years of marriage deserved another chance. But the people who mattered understood what really happened. They knew this wasn't a single mistake, but a series of choices. They knew hiding an STD diagnosis from your spouse isn't just cheating. It's risking someone else's health. The divorce process moved forward, but not the way I hoped. California is a no-fault state, so even though I had proof of her infidelity, it didn't change asset division or spousal support decisions. The court ruled more in her favor than I expected. Despite everything, she received far more in the settlement than I thought she would. She was even granted spousal support for a few months. The entire process took around 14 months from the day I filed. California requires a waiting period, and after that, there are more delays due to negotiations and court scheduling. During those months, Zara kept switching between anger and attempts at reconciliation. She sent messages saying she still loved me, asking for counseling, suggesting we could rebuild trust if I just tried. I never replied. I blocked her number early on, communicated only through my attorney, and kept a strict distance. The divorce was finalized in early January, about a year after everything came to light. I signed the final papers, and just like that, the marriage was legally over after 5 long years. I moved into a new 1-bedroom apartment in another part of Sacramento. Now and then, I came across photos of Zara on social media. Mutual friends would tag her in posts. But by then, she felt like someone from another lifetime. Someone I no longer recognized. Someone I no longer needed to. Looking back at everything that happened after the divorce was finalized, I can see things more clearly now. I learned that sometimes the truth comes out in the most unexpected ways. If our doctor hadn't asked that simple, routine question during my physical exam, I might never have known the truth. I might have stayed married to Zara, living in darkness while she kept lying. That accidental discovery, as painful as it was, saved me from continuing in a relationship built on secrets. Most importantly, I learned that not every betrayal can be forgiven. People around me said I should give Zara a second chance. That one drunken mistake shouldn't erase 5 years of marriage. But they didn't understand the whole picture. It wasn't just cheating. It was cheating, disease exposure, and months of lies afterward. That combination made forgiveness impossible, no matter how long we had been together. Now, I'm at peace with how everything unfolded. I know I made the right choice by leaving immediately, even though the divorce set me back financially. Staying would have meant accepting behavior no one should take, and sacrificing my own dignity and health. Today, my life is completely different from how it was during my marriage. I'm living on my own in my apartment, feeling more stable than I have in a while. Let me know what you would have done if you were in my shoes. And while you're at it, feel free to like and share this with someone who needs to hear it.